Welcome back to my channel. I came to Israel in 1970, September 1970. I was invited by Harav Neria, Zichrono Livracha. We had met in New York a few times, and I discussed with him the possibilities of Aliyah. And one day I received a telegram from Harav Neria. In those days we had telegrams, by the way. And in the telegram he offers me to become the Menahel, the principal, of the Ulpana Segula in Kiryat Motzkin. Am I interested? I sent back a telegram to Rav Neria and I said, I am interested, however, I have two questions. Question number one, what is an Ulpana? Question number two, where is Kiryat Motzkin? When I received answers which made sense to me, I came on Aliyah as the head of the Ulpana in Kiryat Motzkin. If you don't know what an Ulpana is, look it up. Anyhow, not much after that, I was invited to lecture at an air base in the north of Israel, Kanaf Echad. And I was told as follows: there is a commander of Kanaf Echad named Zorik. He's a very nice guy. Once a month, he has an evening for all the flyers, the pilots, and ground crews on the buses, where they have to be there, they don't go home that night. And they talk business, and he also has a guest lecture. And he invited me to be the guest lecturer and to talk about Aliyah. I was flattered. I got there a little bit early, and when I got there, he was in the middle of screaming at his crews. And I saw the following picture. Zorik, Zichrono Livracha, Zorik holding a screwdriver in its hand and saying, I found this screwdriver on the Masul Hamra'ah. How do you say Masul Hamra'ah in English? I can't think of it for the moment. Masul Hamra'ah is the takeoff. Well, anyhow, the runway. Yeah. So he has a screwdriver on the runway, and I have a brain which doesn't collate that the word runway is okay. Anyhow, and he said, and if that screwdriver would have ended up in the motor of an F, whether it was our bias ray or Sheshes ray, I don't even know, we'd be in real trouble. And he let them have it. I saw that the guy is a real gever. He's somebody. Anyhow, he finished his tirade, and then he sees me, and he says, we have a guest lecturer tonight who is an Oleh Chadash, and he's going to talk about Aliyah. I could see that the pilots, the co-pilots, the ground crews were getting ready to fall asleep. They got into a position of no screwdrivers, no nothing. We had enough. So do you have to start? Yeah, okay. Do we have to listen? We'll make believe we're listening, you know. Did you ever see somebody fall asleep like this? Where he had his ear as though he's listening, but he's already sleeping. Anyhow, I said, okay, my friends, wake up. First of all, I want you to know that I am an Oleh Chadash. Some people who don't know how to say oh, they say I am a Choleh Chadash. And I came on Aliyah for many reasons. And I could go into all the reasons, but why? I'll tell you, I came on Aliyah because I was running away from a girlfriend. No, I was married. I came on Aliyah because I'm going to make so much money living in Israel. It's so funny, I have to stop for a moment to laugh. I came on Aliyah because I wanted fame, and the answer also was not. I said I came on Aliyah because from the time I was in Kita Aleph, I learned that in Yahadut there are two parts. There's Torat Yisrael and there's Eretz Yisrael. You can sometimes live with only one part. But if you want to be healthy, you need both. And I wanted to be healthy. And that's why I came on Aliyah. And then I discussed various aspects of the Aliyah, etc., etc., etc. Okay, I finished the lecture. And Zorik says, you were very interesting. Can we let the guys ask questions? And there were a few pilots who asked me some very difficult questions, or such as, you're not such a big shot, you know. Who do you think you are? You're saving Israel? We save Israel, not you. And I had that kind of reaction. And Zorik, I think, felt a little bit guilty, and he says to me, you know, I understood what you were trying to do. By the way, Nachon, I'm not Dati, but I even learned, I studied in Bar Ilan. And I think I owe you something. So I say, what do you owe me? He says, I owe you that we should take a long walk around the base. And I'll show you certain things. I'll put you in the cockpit of certain planes. I'll tell you some stories about what goes on here. And he did. We had a very, very, very interesting evening, which I never would forget. That's how I first got to Zorik in Kanaf Echad. I was invited a few more times to lecture. I was invited to organize the Seder, the official Seder on the base, which happened that year to be the official Seder of Chil HaAvir, of the Air Force, with everything top shape, how they did things. And also with the foil shtick. They say to me, listen, Rabbi, it's a big, big dining room. Nobody's going to hear you. Will you use a microphone? And I said, Yontif, I can't use a microphone. What if we hide the microphone in the flower arrangement? I said, look, it's a good idea, but I prefer shouting, which I did, and Baruch Hashem, everything worked out, and I had this relationship with the Basis. I knew many of the people there, and I was invited there a number of times. That's how I got there. Now comes the beginning of the part which for me is very, very, very difficult. Difficult even to discuss. But here goes. Milchemet Yom Kippur, 1973. I'm in Israel my third year. I still was not officially drafted into the service, even though I had volunteered a few times. And anyhow, it hadn't worked out. The war began. Kanaf Echad, Zorik's Kanaf, at one point was under siege. The Syrians sent some frog missiles that hit the Shchunat Tayasim on the basis. There was a lot of trouble. And I was invited to come and see if I can schmooze with pilots, talk to some of these people that I knew, and try to do something. Obviously, with only one course in psychology, I tried to be the greatest psychologist in the world. And I was on the base when there were problems. If I'm not mistaken, it was the third day of Milchemet Yom Kippur. Every day, Zorik, the commander, was sending up flights, many of which didn't return. And I think on the third day or on the fourth day, he couldn't take it any longer. And although legally he was not supposed to fly because he was the commandant and he was supposed to send the others, but he couldn't take it, and he went up with a group of planes. And he didn't come back. It seems that his plane fell in the Suez Canal. From all the reports that I had received, they had not ever found his body. And that's how I sort of got involved in this part of the story, which I feel I should still continue with you, if you don't mind. Let's say this was the Zorik half. And now I'll continue with more things that happened then. As I said, I lived in Kiryat Motzkin. I was still not drafted. By the way, for anyone who wants to know, after the war I volunteered, I was accepted. I did a course Ksinim, I did a course Rabbanim Tzva'im, and I think I did my share. But during the war, I was very frustrated. What I did then, I went to the, then it was still a Moatzah, not an Ir. Well, let's call it an Ir, Rosh HaIr of Kiryat Motzkin. The Rosh HaIr of Kiryat Motzkin was a man named Goshen. And Goshen knew me as the head of the opener. And one day Goshen calls me and he says, look, during the 6-Day War, we had, I think, here in Motzkin, 6 casualties. I hope there won't be more now. However, maybe there will be. I need someone to represent the Moatzah when we go to inform people of the loss of a loved one. And that's how I got involved in informing families of their loss. And there's at least one that I want to talk about. But before we go into that, I'll say one thing. I wasn't a bad-looking guy, but during that war I must have gained 40 pounds. From anxiety, from fear, from I don't know what. One story that I should now disclose to you in a moment.